Welcome back to the deep dive.
So when you think about facility security, what comes to mind? For most people, it's, layers of cameras, maybe even electrified fences.
Right, or those high-value cages inside, that really obvious, almost cinematic stuff.
Exactly. But the unexpected truth that we pulled from our source material is that for a warehouse, for a distribution center, the single most critical and vulnerable point of loss, it's almost always the loading dock.
It absolutely is. It's that junction point where your controlled, secure indoor world meets the complete volatility of the outside. It's just a massive high-traffic breach point waiting to happen.
So that's our mission today.
Yeah, we want to give you, our listener, a kind of shortcut to an immediate operational upgrade. We've structured this deep dive as a 5-point, really strategic audit. By the end of this, you'll have what you need to assess and really strengthen your loading dock security.
And we're talking about everything from the physical building itself to the human procedure.
All of it, the whole stack.
And it's interesting because we're way beyond just preventing a simple smash and grab theft. The sources really hammered this home modern security is now an ROI discussion, an investment discussion.
100%.
When you invest in advanced access control or, say, smart surveillance, you're not just buying loss prevention anymore, you're actually buying operational efficiency.
You're streamlining things. These systems, they turn what used to be a pure cost center into a genuinely smart business decision with returns you can actually measure.
But that whole strategic approach, it has to start with the basics, right? Because all the fancy tech in the world isn't going to help if the physical structure is weak.
It fails. It completely fails. The reliability of your main barriers, your doors, that is the absolute non-negotiable foundation of everything else.
And speaking of that foundation, this is a great time to thank our sponsor, City Gates USA. You can reach them at 718-393-9700.
They're the ones you call when you need to get that foundation right.
Absolutely. If you're looking to install or upgrade the physical security of your facility, they're known for their 5-star reviews and a real commitment to superior service. So let's jump right into our first audit point, which is all about the door itself.
Right. Audit point 1, physical integrity of the door and structure. You have to think of the door as your first line of defense, not just against, forced entry, but also against operational waste.
And the source material really shows how much engineering goes into what to most people just looks like a big piece of metal.
Oh, it's incredibly sophisticated. You might need something like high-security rolling steel for a huge industrial site, or, on the other hand, maybe a sleeker aluminum storefront door if you have a retail-facing area.
But it's not just about stopping break-ins anymore, is it? It's also about compliance, saving money on operations.
Exactly. The sources get into things like fire-rated products, which are obviously critical for life safety, but also insulated doors. These are specifically made to cut down your heating and cooling costs.
That's a huge operational win that I think a lot of people just don't even consider.
It's a key part of that ROI we talked about. And when you get into the high security specs, you're looking at details designed to stop very specific attacks. For example, the sources mention that high-security rolling doors should have a slat engagement depth.
Okay, what's a slat engagement depth?
It's just the measurement of how far the interlocking metal slats, overlap into the vertical guides on the side. And that depth should be no less than 2 inches.
2 inches, that sounds very, very specific. Why that number?
Because that's the leverage point. That exact depth makes sure that a pry bar can't get enough of a grip to peel the slats out of the tracks. It's a small detail, but it's the difference between a minor delay for an attacker and complete failure on their part.
So you've got the physical strength, but then there's the mechanical operation and safety. The sources talked about automatic door operators.
Yes, systems that can be set up to close the door with motor power the second an alarm is triggered.
But what if the power goes out?
That's the failsafe. It has to have one. A well-engineered door will close using gravity, but at a controlled speed, usually around 6 to 9 inches per second. Fast enough to secure the opening, but slow enough to prevent accidents.
And this all ties into accessibility, too.
It does, for any nearby pedestrian doors. The closers have to be calibrated to use the absolute least force needed to close, which in turn makes the door easier to open. It's a perfect example of security and safety working hand in hand.
Okay, so the structure is solid. Now we have to control who can even get near it, which brings us to audit point 2. Access control and migration.
And this is where we have to move past, that old-fashioned lock and key mindset.
It's dead.
It's dead. Modern access control is foundational. We're talking card readers, Biometrics, systems that demand positive ID for every single person, employees, visitors, vendors, at every single entry point. This isn't just a good idea, it's a baseline requirement for major compliance frameworks.
Like CTP, which came up in the sources. For listeners who aren't in global logistics, can you define that for us?
Sure. CTPAT is the Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism. It's a voluntary program with U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Basically, companies agree to implement really strict supply chain security, and the loading dock is, well, it's a critical control point in that whole chain.
So if you're CT-PAT certified, you're already playing at a very high level with this stuff.
We have to be.
So let's talk about migrating from those old systems. The sources were really pushing for moving to modern IP-based access control systems, or ACS.
Right, and this is where that ROI we mentioned starts to get really clear. When you use things like power over Ethernet or PoE door controllers, you suddenly don't need all that complex, expensive electrical wiring run to every door.
It simplifies everything.
And the total cost of ownership, the TCO. That's the real kicker. You have to look past the initial price tag.
Yeah.
Old proprietary systems get incredibly expensive to maintain and repair. Modern IP systems slash those costs for maintenance, for upgrades, for service calls.
But wait, if you're putting your physical security onto the main corporate network, what about the cybersecurity risk? I mean, that sounds like a huge headache for the IT department.
It's a crucial question. But the benefit is that IT can now manage security devices just like any other network device, using all their existing cyber protocols. Plus, integrating other things, like visitor management systems, becomes seamless over IP instead of some mess of electrical relays.
And you can even automate cardholder management.
Yes, by linking it to something like Microsoft Active Directory. Think about the labor hours that saves HR and IT every time someone joins or leaves the company. It's massive.
Speaking of people leaving, let's talk about vehicle access. We're past keypads now, right?
We have to be. So you have two main modern options. First is RFID, using windshield tags, keycards, fobs. The big win here is managing turnover. You can deactivate a tag instantly, remotely. No more security gap from an ex-employee who still knows the gate code.
And the other option is LPR.
License plate readers. They compare a plate against a database of approved vehicles. Both are just worlds better than having an overwhelmed guard trying to check a clipboard during a morning rush.
Which leads us right to the most vulnerable moment of all. Let's get to audit point 3. Securing the vehicle interface. This is that specific high-risk moment when a truck is backed up, but the trailer isn't physically locked to the dock.
That's the gap. That moment is a catastrophic vulnerability. It allows for what's called a trailer drop, where a criminal, maybe even a colluding driver, can just detach the tractor and drive away with the trailer full of high-value goods.
It happens so fast.
Incredibly fast. And that's why the physical solution, the dock-lock vehicle restraint systems like the right height shadow hook, are so essential. They provide a dual defense.
Okay, so the first defense is obvious. It physically locks the trailer.
Right, it physically secures the container to the building, preventing that premature departure. But the second function, that's where the real intelligence comes in.
The community.
Exactly. It acts as an integrated security sensor. If someone tampers with it while it's engaged, the system immediately blasts audible alarms and flashes outside lights. And crucially, it's tied into the main building security system. It turns a potential theft into a contained, auditable security event. It buys you time.
It gives your security team the time they need to actually react and intercept. That's huge.
It's everything.
So locking down the vehicle is half the battle. Once the physical side is tight, we have to move into detection and deterrence. Let's shift to audit point 4, surveillance, lighting, and operational visibility.
And this is where technology stops being just an alarm and starts becoming an actual business driver. Video analytics are the key. They don't just record things anymore. They transform that raw footage into usable, actionable insights.
So what does that actually look like? Are we just talking about, catching someone loitering, or can this really give facility managers business intelligence they can use right now?
Oh, it's absolutely the latter. For security, yes, it spots anomalies. But for the business, it helps you understand truck idle times, congestion patterns at certain docks, even internal labor flow. By seeing your peak hours and traffic patterns, you can optimize staffing, reduce bottlenecks.
You're streamlining the entire operation using security footage.
You are. It turns that security spends into a tool for making the whole business run better. The lesson is you need a forward-thinking plan for your tech. You have to plan for strategic upgrades to stay ahead of new threats and keep maximizing that ROI.
And before we get into a really interesting detail about the dock environment, let's thank City Gates USA one more time.
They provide expert installation and service for all these physical elements we're talking about, from rolling doors to aluminum frames, making sure it all works flawlessly. That number is 718-393-9700. They really are your local partner for excellence.
Okay, so lighting. Specifically dock lighting. This was one of those surprisingly deep, nuanced areas where security crosses over into, believe it or not, facility finance.
It's such an unexpected ROI driver. So, specialized dock lighting is often classified as Section 1245 property for tax purposes.
Which is different from regular building lights.
Very different. General interior lighting is usually Section 1250 property. The big deal is that 1245 property is often eligible for accelerated depreciation. You get a much shorter cost recovery period.
So, because those high-intensity lights are aimed right at the dock interface, supporting a specific business activity, you might be able to write them off faster.
Precisely. The distinction is based on what's called the functional allocation approach. Basically, what's the ultimate use of the electricity? If the lighting is directly for moving goods and securing that bay, it can be seen as depreciable personal property, not just part of the building.
That is a deep dive within a deep dive.
It's a great example of how these security investments have financial implications that smart businesses should be using.
Okay, but now we have to talk about the most unpredictable variable of all people. Let's hit our final point, audit point 5, employee and driver procedures. Because all the tech in the world can't fix a bad policy.
And this might be the most critical insight from the sources. The data shows that 85% of financial loss now happens at the trucking stage, during or just after transport. This is a huge shift. Historically, warehousing itself was where most loss happened. Now it's down to just 10 or 12%.
That's a stunning number. It says that we've gotten really good at locking down the inside of the warehouse, but the external interface, the driver, the truck, that's the new point of attack.
It absolutely proves that control over that driver interface is everything. The sources detail really strict measures. Drivers should be completely restricted to designated areas, like a waiting room and a bathroom. That's it.
And the rule has to be ironclad. Zero access to the count area or the main shipping and receiving floor.
None. The purpose is simple: deterrence and information denial. It stops a driver from seeing pre-staged cargo, or worse, from casing the joint doing reconnaissance to plan a bigger attack later by spotting your operational weaknesses.
Limit their visibility, you limit their opportunity.
That's the principle.
And compliance is a huge factor here too, right? Especially in industries like food, where security is also about food protection, preventing tampering.
Exactly. The loading dock is the primary entry point for external threats. So we're seeing this strong voluntary trend where companies now require carriers to provide documentation for recalls and traceability. They're making sure loads are sealed before they move. It's not optional anymore. It's a competitive advantage that reduces massive liability.
And finally, just basic safety inside the dock area itself.
Safety and security are always linked. You need safe clearances for aisles where forklifts are running and adequate ventilation to handle exhaust fumes like carbon monoxide. A clean, safe dock is a secure dock. Why? Because operational discipline reduces the chance for error or for malice.
So, to wrap this whole deep dive up, the core idea we want you to walk away with is that security ROI isn't just one thing. It's not just about theft you prevented.
No, it's measured in real gains, in operational efficiency, in meeting compliance, and in lowering your total cost of ownership through smart, modern technology and planning.
Which leads us right to our final, provocative thought for you to take with you.
Considering that modern access control systems completely eliminate the huge cost of rekeying physical locks every single time an employee leaves, have you ever truly calculated the real total cost of ownership for your old legacy security system?
When you factor in the service calls, the maintenance headaches, the lost efficiency, that old system is probably costing you a lot more than you think.
So if you're looking to take that first strategic step toward modernizing, whether you need high-security rolling seal or sleek aluminum storefront doors, you should rely on the experts.
Reach out to City Gates USA at 718-393-9700. They have an unmatched selection and a commitment to excellence, which you can see in their 5-star reviews. Thank you for diving deep with us.
We'll see you next time.